everybody, welcome to this week's podcast. I'm delighted to have with me an organisation, a type of organisation that we haven't covered before. I first heard Francesca, she doesn't know me, this is the first time I've actually spoken, but Francesca hit my radar when I was listening to a podcast the other day. Obviously this is going to timestamp this podcast and video, but we're still in COVID and I'm lucky enough to travel a lot for work, and having missed travel, I've moved my podcast listening from listening to learning things around digital, which I still do. I've been listening to some travel podcasts, and I heard Francesca the other week talking about her amazing conservation not-for-profit organisation, and had a look at their digital and could see they were doing a really amazing job. So what I have kindly done, and Francesca's kindly accepted, is invited her on the podcast today to just have a chat about how she's used digital marketing for her conservation, how she used it to raise awareness, and any hints and tips she's got for anyone doing not-for-profit, conservation, environmental, sustainable types of things. So I'm really pleased to have you on, Francesca, and very jealous of your location versus mine.
Thanks for having me.
That's okay. So I think it'd be really lovely, it'd be rude of me not to let you introduce yourself and where you're based, because obviously you're from England, people can work that out, but you don't live in England, because that's certainly not a UK location, is it?
No, so I'm based in Mozambique for most of the year. So I run Love the Oceans Marine Conservation Organisation out here, and I'll actually show you my current location. I'm sat on my porch, but we have a very nice view here, and it's nice living near the beach. It means we can get out lots. Although currently with COVID, obviously that means that a lot of our research and education work has not been allowed, so we've moved a lot online, which is why we've been doing a lot of digital marketing and things like that too. So yeah, I am 26, running this organisation out here, and currently there's not a whole lot going on with us, but usually we would be doing, our mission is to establish a marine protected area here, so usually we would be doing humpback whale research, coral reefs, ocean trash, fisheries, and whale sharks and manta rays, with all publishing papers in those areas to establish this marine protected area. And then we have 2 education projects, because the marine protected area model that we're using is locally led, so you have to have a local community with the skills to be able to manage it successfully. So we run 2 community projects, one teaching basic marine resource management to 10 to 13-year-olds, and another one teaching swimming, because with the creation of the marine protected area, the job creation and poverty alleviation will be in the marine space. So swimming is an important tool in that.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's us in a nutshell.
Like I've said, I'm lucky enough to travel with my work, and if I can coincide my work with scuba diving, I do. And actually the last scuba diving I did was for work. I was working out in Mauritius, and I got to do a couple of dives, which is fantastic. But I'd last dived in Mauritius 15 years ago, when I dived the same sites, and it was really sad to see how it would deteriorate. It was very sad. I mean, it was great, I saw some turtles and stuff, but seeing that 14-year difference, you can really see it, which was really sad. But for any scuba diving fans listening today, they're probably going, when can I sign up and come and help you? That's what I'm thinking right now. So you are living the life of luxury in our eye, for my eyes and a lot of people's eyes. But obviously we're not here to talk about scuba diving. This is a digital marketing podcast, and as much as I would love to talk to you all day about your amazing work and what you're doing, what I really want to get to the nuts and bolts of and find out from you is a little bit about Love the Oceans and how digital marketing helped you get started, because I think you started in about 2014.
Yeah, so we actually, so I started it on my own, and now we have a team of us that are working, obviously, for the organisation. So when I first started, we didn't have any social media presence. I've never been a big social media type of person. So when we started, we didn't even have an Instagram or Facebook or anything. And then it was only after the second program that we'd run that a volunteer said hey, have you thought about documenting what you're doing and creating a social media account? And that's where we kind of started from, and that was very much just me posting whatever we were doing that day, and we didn't have that bigger following or anything, and we've never really concentrated that much on it. But then last year we were lucky enough to be selected as one of 15 global grassroots forces for change by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and that kind of skyrocketed our profile, because they've got like 9 million followers and they were only following 15 accounts. So we got a lot of like people and interest through that, and that's when we started taking our social media presence a little bit more seriously, with the larger following. So then we started thinking about, like, you know, what we're using it for, and what the purpose of the accounts are, and our digital marketing in general, like how we can reach people, how we can tell our story, and that kind of stuff too. So yeah, originally we started very basic and not really knowing what I was doing, and then we've slowly kind of grown that. So off the back of Harry and Meghan's recognition, we got like a couple of people come forward, and because we're a very lean non-profit, and we have a charitable arm as well, so we don't have funds to spend on digital marketing or anything like that. We have such strict budgets, and most of our funding is restricted funding, which means that when people donate, they donate to a specific project, and you can't spend that money on anything else. No one is willing to donate money for digital marketing. Our budgets are like extremely limited. So 2 people came forward and said, hey, heard about you guys, would be willing to do some pro bono work. So that was kind of the start of it for us, and that was actually a fundraiser and a PR agent, and combined, having meetings with the both of them, it was much easier to, like, you know, create a vision of what we wanted and the messaging and things. And then we recently had a woman come on board who is now our marketing manager, and she's worked in marketing for a while, and she's just a friend of our directors, but she's amazing, and she's been creating like branding packs, and we've come up with more of a, like, let's tell the story of what we're doing, so that when we get new followers and stuff, people can easily actually find out what we do, rather than just seeing like lots of photos of, don't get me wrong, amazing marine life, but actually knowing the purpose of what we do as well is important. And we're partnered with a photography organisation too, Photographers Without Borders, and they create a lot of our images, and their whole kind of like story is storytelling through making change through storytelling. So their images aren't just like, you know, pretty pictures, they're usually of a specific event or people or like person that we work with that has a story that goes with it, which also really helps for our marketing and digital marketing.
Yeah. So, and that's often the way with organisations, that they don't think about social media, and then it just happens. You think, oh my goodness, there's this big beast here, I need to look after it. But when you, and I'll come back to that in a second if that's okay, but when you first started your organisation, Francesca, did I assume that you did create a website, or if you didn't, how did you get momentum in terms of making people aware of what you're up to?
Yeah, so I created our website. I created the current website. I've created all the websites we've ever had and maintain it because we don't have the budget to employ any kind of website designers. But yeah, so I created a website, just actually a free website on WordPress.com, and it even had, like, I hadn't even bought the domain, like it even had lovetheoceans.wordpress.com in it, and we had a Hotmail email, but I was a student when I started the organisation, so I literally couldn't afford to like spend any money. So I basically utilised like free tools essentially. And that's actually something I always point out to friends running charities and stuff like that. There's actually a lot of free tools online, but it's difficult to find out what they are. So I actually went to a seminar in London, and it was just, I think our director had found out about it through, I don't know, it was like a really random connection. And we went, and this guy was actually like was a digital marketer, and he was doing this free seminar, and we kind of just walked in and sat down and like chatted to him at the end, and he was telling us, and he like brought up a screen of like all the free resources that he'd come across, which was, I literally took a photo of it because I was like, that's gold. So it was things like MailChimp for our newsletter, because before I'd been like managing newsletter subscribers literally manually, like an Excel spreadsheet, and
wow.
me like unsubscribing people if they unsubscribed, and subscribing people, and it was such a lot of work to be able to do that, and so swapping to MailChimp changed that to a lot less workload, but we hadn't even known about that before. So yeah, I guess like we started by a website with just, for me, websites I've always been big on the content of the website being more important than how it looks. Like, it's lovely if it looks nice, but if the actual like meaty part of the website isn't there, there's no point to it. So our website wasn't like the prettiest to start with, but it had a lot of information on, and even now it's not like the best website in the world, but it still is packed with info on what we do, and pretty much anything that you want to know about us you can find on there. And that's like, yeah, one of the ways that we just decided to design the website. So it was a website, and then I also did a lot of I still do a lot of in-person presentations around the UK when I'm in the UK, because I come back to the UK for about 4 months a year. So I talk at like universities and schools and stuff, so that's a big marketing thing for us.
Yeah, okay. And I think a couple of the points that you've raised are really important. Now, it's all about storytelling, and I think, well, you've touched on a number of useful tips. First of all, is there's a load of free tools out there, and people don't always know what they are. But MailChimp's one, WordPress is another. Google Analytics is free, and it'll tell you where your traffic's coming from. So social media, and there's other great tools out there that they're either free or they're freemium. So there's free versions of which, like you say, you don't always have to pay for something to actually get good value out of it. But I think when you're in the position that you were in, where you don't have a marketing department you can call on, you have to upskill yourself very quickly. Yeah. And then I think the comment you made around storytelling, absolutely key, because you're doing a fantastic cause, and obviously you're going to have lovely pictures because you've got amazing wildlife out there that you're trying to care and look after and educate. And the swimming stuff, some of the pictures of the kids swimming looks amazing, but actually the storytelling behind that is the purpose of what you're doing. And I think if people are looking to donate or looking to come out and work alongside you and do some of help on some of the education things, they want to know about it, don't they, before they start to jump in, which I think is really, really useful. So they're two amazing tips. I think although you're a conservation stroke charity, you have to be commercial about it, and that's not commercial in the sense of how can I generate money, because obviously you want to raise money for your cause, but it's actually, you need to look at it commercially in terms of a strategy and branding packs. And I think that's super important, especially in COVID, because no doubt you've been affected, not just lockdown, but donations, I'm guessing, may have dropped. I know a lot of charities have gone out of business.
Yeah, we've been trying to do a lot more like online campaigns. And for us, it's a fine balance. So we have a non-profit and we have a charity, non-profit arm and charity arm. And the non-profit arm is the arm that runs like our expeditions and pays our staff and all of that kind of stuff. And then our charity arm is like pure charity projects. So that's like school construction and building the pool and things like that, which are like, seriously, you cannot argue that it's not charity kind of thing. Yeah. So in terms of our funding comes from donors, and our funding comes from our charity funding comes from donors purely, and fundraisers, and we have an ambassador that does like fundraising events through the year, but it's basically all donations, whether that be companies or individuals or fundraising. And then our non-profit arm functions because we run expeditions, and that's a huge array of people. Like our age range last year was like, our youngest volunteer was 16, our oldest was 65. So like a massive range in capabilities, in backgrounds, in everything. And those expeditions fund our scientific research, because it's really difficult to get scientific research funding. That's like a seriously underfunded area of the world is science. So that's really, really essential to us, and it's also where we can pay our staff from and things like that, which is obviously, again, really integral in terms of financial sustainability. So part of our work is, and it's really difficult to kind of balance it, to showcase what we're doing, obviously, and to demonstrate to our funders that we are doing what we've said we're doing. And the other side of that is also trying to attract people onto our programs, to get them to come out and like participate and help out with what we're doing, so that we can make ends meet as well as obviously we need the people out here to be able to collect all the data and all the rest of it. But financially, that's an important part for us as well. So it's like kind of multiple things that we're using our social media for, and it's striking that fine balance between it, because we don't want to come across too commercial. Like, we were doing a lot of giveaways in May, I think it was. We were doing a different giveaway with a different eco company each week, and supporting independent organizations and companies is something that I feel passionately about. And we only ever support, you know, I vet them ethically and environmentally. So basically all of the ones that we were supporting are like vegan and, you know, environmentally friendly, made of recycled materials, like plastic free, all of that kind of stuff, which I do think is really, really important, which is why we're doing it. But then we're really aware that our social media feeds were becoming very commercial, because we're also running a weekly Q&A series with a conservation guest every week, different guests. And they're from different backgrounds, but everyone talks about conservation. And we post 2 times about that already in the week. And then if all the other posts, if you can only post like marine images once a week, and the rest of your posts are like, do this, asking for actions, like tune into this, donate to this, like buy this, then it becomes very commercial, and people get a bit like, stop trying to make me do things. I just want to see some animals. So it's like that fine balance as well. And Jazzy, our marketing manager, has been helping us do that. We've got a social media manager as well, and she like maintains the platforms and posts. And then Jazzy comes up with like, you know, the stories behind it, and making sure that we have like series running and things like that.
Yeah, because I think with social media, it's really important to think about what you want to raise awareness of, but also putting the customer's shoes on, like the audience. And like you say, you know, we want to see pictures of, you know, whale sharks and manta rays and all the things that we love to see when we're scuba diving, but it's about making sure that you're actually getting people to say yes to something. So whether it's following a social media account, or whether it's donating, or whether it's thinking about, I'm going to come out and help on the education project next year. And I think during COVID, it might, you know, there's been a lot of people thinking about, what do I really want to do? And hopefully that will then inspire them, right, I'm really going to go and sign up to Love the Oceans project next year. But thinking about how far in advance do you guys plan your social and your digital marketing?
Varies, massively varies. So sometimes it's on the day and we're like, okay, we're going to post this tonight. And usually the actual post will probably be planned on the day, like what images we're going to use and what captions we're going to use. But the like thought behind it, like the process behind it. So like, for instance, for the last month, we've been running a What We Do series. So we know, like I know the areas that we work in, so I know what we have to cover off. And then it just depends what, like I'll look at our feed that week and I'll see that we haven't posted many marine things. So instead of posting about the education projects, I'll post about our whale shark research or things like that. So I know, like, we set the theme, so I know what kind of thing we will be posting. And I can write that stuff in my sleep. Like, I live and breathe Love the Oceans. So like I can come up with a caption about why we do what we do on a certain subject very easily. So it's not like, it doesn't really panic me or anything like that. Like I can just do it on the day. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays we have our sets Q&A posts. So that's really easy. So we always know what we're posting on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then the other days are basically like, it'll be a post off a series that we're running at that moment, or a current thing that's happening. So like a podcast release or a new article or some kind of action. Like if there's something going on, like we had like the drilling that was meant to happen here Didn't happen, so we did like a nice celebration post about like everyone, we won this kind of thing. So if it's like a current news, then we'll post that as well. So it varies a little bit on what we post, and we're probably not as prepared as we should be, but we also don't have a marketing department or anything like that. Like, it is just a group chat of 4 of us pinging ideas back to each other and like critiquing each other's work, essentially.
What I really like is the fact that you've actually got other people involved, and I think that's probably a useful tip that well, I would assume, and I'm guessing it's worked for you because you've done it. I noticed the other day you had one of the young presenters from Springwatch on one of your chat sessions, didn't you? I think. How long have you been doing that, and is that working, and in what way is that working for you?
So we started that in April, and I've never really liked being on social media like in front of people very much. I like doing like face-to-face stuff and talking about Love the Oceans, but I always got a bit nervous about being on, I don't know, being on camera. I'm a photographer, so I prefer being behind the camera. And then I was kind of like joking with our social media manager, and then I don't know why, but the way my brain works is I'll come up with an idea, and then I'll be like, no, I can't possibly do that for 3 days. And then after 3 days, I'll be like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I kind of joked with our social media manager. And then after 3 days, I was like, actually, that could really work. I think that could be good. And it was just when I think more people started doing lives on Instagram. I know that's definitely changed in the past since COVID. A lot more people are doing lives. And I just liked the way that the audience could interact, because it's one thing like, you know, doing a podcast or doing a YouTube thing or whatever, but then when people can actually submit questions live, it's quite nice to do that. And the added like plus side of that is it airs to both audiences. So it's if either of the followers of either account goes on at that time, then they'll see that we're in conversation with them. So you get like essentially double the exposure, because you get exposure through your channels and through theirs. So yeah, we just started it, and to be honest, most of them have just been my friends that I've invited on, because I work in an industry where everyone knows each other. So it's been relatively easy getting guests. Because I'll just ring people up and be like, would you mind coming on next week? But each of them are amazing people. So I've genuinely, it helps when I'm like talking to a friend, because I genuinely enjoy a conversation with them and pretty relaxed. So it's a very chilled out vibe. And we post on the Monday, we collect questions for them through the week. And then on the Wednesday, we post a reminder one, collect questions again, and then on the Thursday, that's when we do the actual live event. And we did it later in the day. It's a 7 p.m. thing, because that's most of our audience is British, so that's post work, because although we started during lockdown, we figured we don't know how long this thing is going to go on. People might be back at work and we might still want to run it, so we figured we'd do it at a point when people would be back from work too, which has actually worked great for us. So the only downside to it is that because it's a live event, if we have like people in different time zones, we have to change the times. So I did one with a girl in India 2 weeks ago, and obviously India's like I think 4 hours ahead, so we had to change that, otherwise that'd be in the middle of the night. And then same with the next week's one, not this week. This week it's someone in England, but next week it's someone in Australia, so it'd be 4 a.m. for him. So we're doing 7 p.m. his time, which doesn't work out quite the right time for us, but in terms of audience exposure, our audience can tune in if they want, but we want that new audience of his channels, so people can tune in from there. So for us, it's worked really well, which is why we've decided to extend it. For us, it's multiple reasons. So it's the exposure on the platforms, which is great. And then it's also connections. So it's connections for the organisation, because a lot of the people that we have on are like researchers or filmers, like photographers, videographers, and that's always useful to have people like you that you can then ring up and be like, hey, we've got this project and we need some footage taken, or we need whatever. So connections for the organisation, but also connections for our students, because we have a programme that we run with universities where the students will come as part of their university degree, and if they want to do some more work experience or an area that we don't work in, so like filming for instance, we have a photography programme that we run with Photographers Without Borders, but past that I can't offer really them an internship in photography or filming. But if we have this huge group of people that know us and like our work and know what we do and feel comfortable with us, then I can drop them an email and say, hey, do you have any internships open? I've got a student here that I would recommend for it. So it's multiple reasons for us doing that, and it's worked really well. So we're going to continue it. We're not sure how long for. I'm not sure I will be able to do it next season if things get back to normal, because usually at this point I'm running around like a headless chicken and my work days are from about 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. So I'm actually not sure I would be able to do an hour chat with someone and have time to prep for it. But I hope that we can, because it's been really successful and I've really enjoyed it. And it's been nice talking to people that do projects all over the world, but everyone has conservation in mind.
Yeah, and I think that's nice because, people like me, I don't come from a conservation background. My mum said to me the other day, she said, Lynsey, if you led your life again, you'd be a marine biologist, wouldn't you? And I said, well, not really clever enough, but yes, I probably would in some shape or form. So for people like me and other people who are interested in marine, it's great that you can hear two amazing conservationists chatting to each other. And obviously, like you said, if they've got followers, then you're improving your reach to those people. And I, to be honest, I hadn't, I'm a massive fan of the ocean, but I hadn't heard of Love the Oceans till I listened to another podcast. Now I follow you and I'm like, wow, that's great. And I can also see that you're repurposing your content. So I can see that you're doing your live chats and actually you've put them on YouTube, which is great. So you're then trying to utilize that, maximize that content, and obviously you can then chop that up and use that as other bits and bobs in the future. But like you say, you're creating a huge amount of content at the moment because you have the disadvantage that you're in lockdown, but that sort of content can be repurposed maybe in the future in different ways, or maybe you get other people involved in your live chat. But I think there are some advantages of COVID, of stuff like that maybe will increase your reach, but obviously the downside is obviously you haven't got the guys out there doing your projects, which is a real shame at the moment.
I think for us, we're kind of trying to keep it in mind, like now is an investment for the future. So although I'm not able, like I can get out on the boards, but like today I was out and the idea was to collect hydrophone data, so like an underwater microphone to record the whales, because they're really noisy right now and it's really useful data that we can collect. But the waves were too big, so I couldn't get the data, and usually we'd have a boat, but you're not allowed to launch the boat because of lockdown. So for us, it's kind of like building an audience now is going to hopefully pay off later when we do ask for donations, or we have specific campaigns that we need people to get involved with or spread or anything like that. So we've just been like pushing. And the other thing that we've done that's helped our platform is reach out to celebrities and ask them to like endorse campaigns or take part, or post a story about us or whatever, and that's obviously helped a little bit as well. So yeah good. Well,
that's I'm of the philosophy, if you don't ask you don't get. So by asking celebrities again, that's core, isn't it? I think also with the latest changes that have happened, people are now looking at their sustainability and their environmental impact, and it frustrates me greatly because we're lucky enough to live on a planet that has got all the right conditions, all the right things, all the right conditions and features of being us to be able to live on it. And there are some people and some countries and some industries, not everyone obviously, that just seem like desperate to try and destroy things on the planet. Well, we're lucky enough to be able to live here. Why on earth would you try and kill whales or have plastic everywhere? It's just ridiculous. So I'm hoping that COVID, and I have seen that people are being, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. So there's hopefully some good to come out of it. So I'm very conscious of your time and hopefully wanting to get back on that ocean to collect some more data. So if there were 3 tips, if you have them, if there are 3 tips that you wish you'd known when you first started out from a digital point of view, when you were setting up Love the Oceans, what tips do you think they might be, Francesca, to share with others?
Utilize free tools. Look up the free tools and utilize them. Storytell. Don't just post nice photos. As lovely as nice photos are, meaningful content is more useful. Campaigns are really useful. It's something that we've only just started doing in the last year or two, really, probably year actually. And we weren't really doing our own campaigns and stuff, and then we just decided this year to take it a bit more seriously and run some environmental campaigns, and it doesn't have to be part of a larger movement. Like, we started with the 2.6 campaign, which was obviously Save the UK Charities campaign, which was part of a larger movement, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. And sometimes it can be advantageous that it's not, because then it becomes your thing and you get people involved in your thing, and your name is associated with it everywhere that it gets shared. So yeah, using social media to be able to campaign is useful too.
Cool. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. I'm very jealous chatting to you while I'm sat here and desperate to get out on my lovely Norfolk coast where I live, which I do spend a lot of time on it, to be fair, but it's definitely not as lovely as where you live. But as you've said, you clearly work blooming hard, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. and people don't see all of that going on in the background. But if people do want to find out more about your fantastic cause, where is the best place for them to go and have a look, Francesca?
So people can check out our website, which is just lovetheoceans.org, and then all of our social media handles. Instagram is probably our biggest social media one, and we kind of focus our efforts on that, and that's at lovetheoceans. We'll post all of the updates there of what we're doing, and on our website you can donate, fundraise, adopt a whale shark, buy merchandise, all of that kind of stuff too.
Lovely, excellent. Well, it's been so lovely to speak to you today. Thank you very much, Francesca.
Thanks.